The boiling point. Classified Dominion Intelligence Report, Officer Ralvin Kaether. When the Vakesh Dominion first made contact with humanity, my superiors barely noticed. A minor species from a blue-green backwater, loud and emotional but without the fleets or numbers to matter. They were colorful, in the way insects sometimes are, bright enough to be noticed, but not worth fearing. We tolerated them, traded with them, even hired them occasionally. They had energy, yes, but their ships were small, their colonies scattered, their politics fractured. They argued endlessly among themselves. A divided prey is no threat. Then came Eridani Prime. The official record calls it an unfortunate navigational mishap during fleet maneuvers. I was there in orbit, watching from the command deck as a Dominion cruiser's gunnery error reduced the human settlement to smoking ruin. Over 20,000 civilians dead in seconds. Families, children, their strange loyal beasts. The Dominion High Council approved a token apology, a sum of credits smaller than the cost of one corvette and an expression of deepest regret. We expected outrage, perhaps even symbolic retaliation. That's what most minor races did before they bowed their heads. And yes, at first, the humans shouted. Their news networks filled with grief and fury. Their diplomats pounded tables and demanded justice. For 3 standard cycles, Earth's feeds were a storm of anger. Then, it stopped. The broadcast quieted. Politicians spoke in measured tones, their voices stripped of heat. The human networks went dark to our intercept teams. Fewer public speeches, fewer emotional outbursts. Trade chatter thinned. Civilian ships began avoiding Dominion space altogether. The fleet analysts told us it was a victory. Their morale is broken, Admiral Vethril reported. They will seek a settlement soon. My fellow officers nodded, smug in their certainty. But I had seen something in the eyes of those human diplomats during the last summit, something I could not name then. Not despair, not fear, something colder. I asked for permission to keep my surveillance teams on human worlds active. High Command denied it. They are finished, Ralvin, they said. You will waste resources. Yet I still found scraps of intelligence, fragments from long-range scans, whispers from trade guild informants. Shipyards on Luna and Mars humming at capacity. Old War veterans recalled to active duty. Civil defense drills on colonies that, officially, had no enemies. It did not fit the pattern of surrender. Eridani Prime was gone. Its ashes were still warm. And the humans were quiet. I wrote my warning in the report's final line. It is my professional opinion that the humans have not yielded. They are not retreating. They are waiting. And I have learned, in my years studying predators, that silence is not always submission. Sometimes it is the moment before the strike. The quiet before the storm. Continuation. Officer Ralvin Kaether, Dominion Intelligence. High Command celebrated their supposed victory. Eridani Prime was reduced to dust, and the humans, they said, had learned their place. The chatter in Dominion fleets turned mocking. Officers swapped stories of the primitive apes whose bark had proven bigger than their bite. Even the Emperor himself publicly dismissed humanity as a passing curiosity in galactic history. But I could not share in the laughter. The silence still bothered me. I began tracing civilian traffic patterns. Merchant convoys that once ran steady routes through Dominion space were gone. Human freighters no longer appeared at the core trade hubs. Instead, they vanished into fringe sectors, unexplored, unpatrolled. Ship transponders would wink out for weeks before reappearing on approach to Earth or Mars. The analysts explained it away as smuggling. I knew better. This was movement with purpose. Then came the shipyard reports. Mars Naval Foundry, silent for decades, roared back to life. Old slipways on Luna lit their forges. Even the asteroid belts in Sol's outskirts swarmed with activity. Our industrial monitors flagged the rise in rare metal shipments, but the conclusion from High Command was always the same: panic construction. The more I looked, the more I found the same pattern across human space. Planetary militia drills disguised as emergency evacuation exercises. Recruitment offices open 24 hours. Orbital defense platforms undergoing maintenance upgrades. This was not panic. This was discipline. A Dominion envoy was dispatched to Earth to finalize what High Command assumed would be a surrender treaty. I reviewed his report when he returned. His words still chill me. They were polite, cold. Every face in that chamber watched us with eyes that did not blink. They asked no questions about reparations, made no demands for apology. When I suggested a mutual disarmament accord, Admiral Chen leaned forward and said, "We heard your apology. We'll respond in kind." The envoy thought it a meaningless remark. I heard the promise buried inside it. Meanwhile, human culture shifted in a way subtle enough that most alien observers missed it entirely. Their once chaotic media became focused and purposeful. No political bickering, no celebrity gossip, just short, factual broadcasts about supply drives, shipyard quotas, and civil readiness drills. Every week the tone grew quieter, calmer, as though the entire species was holding its breath. I wrote another warning to High Command. I told them the humans were not broken. They were preparing. The response came back curt and final. "Your fixation is noted. The matter is closed." Perhaps it was, but the cold weight in my gut told me otherwise. Predators stalk in silence before they pounce. And humanity's silence had now stretched for months. The snap. Continuation. Officer Ralvin K. The Dominion Intelligence. It began without a declaration, without threats, without even the courtesy of a warning shot. At 3:17 Dominion Standard Time, in 12 sectors across the outer reaches, human forces struck. Not with grand fleets marching through hyperspace in proud defiance. No, their first blow was silent, surgical, and devastating. The comm relays went first. Entire clusters of Dominion communications hubs went dark within minutes, severed by precision strikes and cyber warfare so efficient our systems couldn't even issue distress calls. On my command ship, the alert board bloomed red across half the tactical map. Fleet captains screamed for updates, but the channels returned nothing but static. Then came the shipyard hits. Stealth vessels, old, slow human corvettes we had dismissed as antiques, slipped past our orbital defenses under sensor masts we didn't know they possessed. They detonated charges in slipways, fuel depots, and dry dock facilities. Entire production lines went up in blossoms of fire before a single defense cannon fired. We'd always thought humans were noisy fighters, charging in with war cries and open guns. But here they moved like ghosts. In Dominion-controlled colonies, it was worse. Our garrisons found themselves under assault by small, heavily armed human strike teams. They didn't bombard from orbit, they landed. They fought through streets and buildings with a precision and brutality that broke morale in hours. The survivors weren't simply defeated. They surrendered, wide-eyed, as though they'd faced a predator they could not comprehend. And the speed. That's what shattered us. The first strike hit before we even realized the humans had mobilized. By the time High Command pieced together that this wasn't an isolated raid, but a coordinated assault, human fleets were already advancing on our staging grounds. They moved along routes we thought impassable. Asteroid fields, unstable wormholes, deep gravity wells. We'd called those hazards impassable because we couldn't cross them. The humans had simply decided to learn how. I watched one live feed from the Deathran system. The Dominion's proud 8th Fleet lined up for battle, its cruisers glittering in the sun. And then, they were gone. In less than 20 minutes, the entire formation was reduced to wreckage, picked apart by weapons fire so precise it felt like the humans had been rehearsing that exact fight for years. The most unsettling part, there were no human victory broadcasts, no triumphant speeches, no declaration of vengeance. They just kept moving, system to system, breaking us piece by piece. And I finally understood the meaning of their silence. It hadn't been submission. It had been the steady, quiet draw of a bowstring. And now the arrow was flying. The glorious aftermath. Final entry, Officer Ralvin K. The Dominion Intelligence. The Vakesh Dominion had stood unchallenged for centuries. We crushed rebellions in weeks, outproduced rivals in years, and dissolved entire civilizations with methodical efficiency. But against humanity, we lasted months. By the third month of their campaign, a quarter of our frontier sectors were gone. Not lost in heavy fighting, gone, with Dominion flags replaced by human patrols and liberated populations pledging allegiance to Earth. By the 5th month, the core sectors were rioting. Species we had subjugated for generations rose up, emboldened by human strikes that crippled our fleets faster than we could repair them. And still the humans spoke little. No boasts, no ultimatums. Just the steady rhythm of a war machine that did not falter. When the Emperor finally ordered the High Council to open peace negotiations, it was not because we had no fleets left, though that was nearly true, but because the humans were already here. Our homeworld defense grid had detected their approach, silent and implacable. I was chosen as one of the Dominion's envoys to the summit on Earth. The human delegation met us in a stark chamber of steel and glass. No banners, no ceremonial fanfare. Admiral Chen, the same figure who had once told our envoy, "We'll respond in kind," sat at the head of the table. Her expression had not changed. We offered reparations, more credits than their species could spend in 10 lifetimes. She declined. We offered trade concessions, military guarantees. She declined. Finally, she said, "You destroyed Eridani Prime. You slaughtered civilians and called it an accident. You taught us exactly what kind of neighbor you are. We will not allow that neighbor to exist in its current form." The terms were simple and final. An immediate disbanding of the Dominion military. A release of all subjugated species. Trials for every officer involved in war crimes, including the destruction of Eridani Prime. I expected her to demand our territory, our wealth, perhaps even our homeworld. But she wanted none of it. Only the dismantling of our ability to harm again. It was mercy, but not the kind that left one feeling safe. The Dominion collapsed within weeks of signing the treaty. Our fleets were scrapped. Our banners burned. Across the galaxy, the humans returned to their worlds with the same quiet focus they had left with. And still, they made no speeches of victory. From my window aboard the departing diplomatic transport, I saw their fleet in Earth orbit, ships scarred from battle, hulls patched with mismatched plating, yet holding formation in perfect, disciplined silence. A single transmission went out across the galaxy. "The matter is settled." I will never forget the lesson. We mistook their noise for their strength and their silence for their weakness. We were wrong on both counts. When humans go quiet, it means the storm has already begun.